If This Isn't Nice, I Don't Know What Is, an album by Still Woozy, who I was introduced to by one of my friends, shout out Dixon, just kind of recently for being this sort of like indie pop kind of
Hmm.
crooner kind of thing. Very interesting, very eclectic project. But it's 13 songs, 34, 35 minutes long. And there is a lot to work with here, which is nice to say, unlike the Blackbear project, which we reviewed earlier in this podcast episode. Um, and this is like, nearly double the time at 34, 35 minutes to Blackbear's 18. But it gets quite a lot done here, just like song wise.
There's a
Like,
lot. Yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of skipping around a little bit, but like the lead single or like one of the songs like made
Window.
Still Wheezy, yeah, Still Wheezy blow up, Still Wheezy like Carl Weezer, lol. But Megan blow up was Window, which has a really nice, interesting sort of like beat to begin with that plays with like dial tones and other different like sound effects, but it's this like really smooth bedroom pop, almost indie. It's like a couple steps past like bedroom pop in production. Sounds pretty good, but some really nice indie.
Yeah, I think it's finally we got a good indie project from a male artist. Like it's been a minute. We've had a lot of female artists that have just absolutely destroyed the indie scene, and have been, especially this year, last year, even the year before, they've just been up and up and pumping them out. We had some decent indie albums and stuff come out. Gustav Bertin last year came out with one. Dayglow had his this year, which was okay, but still kind of disappointing. That was the feeling of a lot of the male artists within the indie scene. But still, Woozy, I actually really enjoy this album. I've heard of him for a while now. Like he's popped on my radar with a bunch of different tracks. Window came out last year, and I thought it was a pretty decent track and good for a lead single. But this album reminded me of a lot of like the front half of the album reminded me of early Phoenix. If you ever like listen to like Phoenix's first couple albums in the early 2000s, it kind of reminds me of that sound of indie where it's that like almost foreign influence of indie music come into North America. So like that's early times of the early 2000s. Wolf like starts off like a fantastic opening track before it gets you like sucked into the album and gets you an idea of what the sound's going to be. Really like his voice throughout the whole album. It doesn't get droning on or anything. And one thing I'll say too is every song is different. There isn't really the same thing over and over again at all. It's really there's plenty of variables. It slows down, speeds up. There's a lot of different experimentation throughout within the production of each track. There's some that are stripped back. There's some that have a little bit heavier production throughout them, but everything's is still kind of light on its feet and easy to digest as a music listener.
Definitely. I think the thing that best describes that sort of like early 2000s European sounds Phoenix kind of thing you're describing is That's Life, the third track. Because like to
Yep.
me when I listen to it, it sounds like all of the sort of effects I love and like sounds I loved from the era, from like the exact way you have the pickup sound from the bass guitar, the way it's kind of like plucky and a little bit like the tone is very high, so it's almost like you can tell it's a bass because it's a lower note, but it's a little bit almost like a guitar, and it's just like
Mm-hmm.
kind of the way it sounds. It's something that's very characteristic from artists like Phoenix. I'm gonna shout out Data Rock, who did like art like music like that, using that kind of like stringy effect very very much. I think Fa 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 was a really popular song they did that I really think of, but still Woozy takes a lot of those elements from 15 years ago of like a really like golden era of alternative like pop
Yes.
and rock music, and kind of scales it, slows it down a bit, and modernizes it for today in a way that's like really really fascinating. It's like a lot to like sink your teeth into.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. Even though it's a short album, the tracks are all under 4 minutes long. You know, a lot of them are 2.5 minutes or so, 3 minutes long, really at the most. And it gets you to the point of each track. You're not really left wanting more or less of each one. It gets to the point, it wraps it up, and it's really very solid. Both in there, there's 13 tracks of them, so each one is a little bit different. Each one has a different sound, but everything is cohesive and it works as a project together. Within there, since every track is pretty short, you have so much to digest. You have so many different ideas and things to bounce off of that you're never left bored at all. You're never left wanting to be like, when is this over? You're just sitting there like, oh, wow, there's a lot more kind of ideas and stuff that you haven't necessarily heard that much this year, maybe a little bit here or there, but it's really cool to have as a full project.
Yeah. um you get down like past you get down past Window and you get to songs like Get Down, and it just sort of continues the same like thing we're going for, where it's a little bit slower back, but you have some interesting things going on with the production, the instrumentation. The drums have a lot kind of going on and different sounds that are happening to make things a little bit unpredictable in the middle. But it still has like a really nice, approachable sort of like sound to it that can sound nice like in the backdrop of like a coffee shop or whatever. But still has a lot of really nice things instrumentally to offer. Like it's really there's depth with this. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot with this, and I really enjoyed this project. I thought with Window when I heard that track, and I was thinking, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be like a maybe a decent album or something, but didn't think it was gonna be that good, and I was pleasantly surprised with how it turned out.
Yeah, I
love when I get proven wrong.
Yeah, I was fully expecting it to be more like Black Bear turned out being, if that makes any sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Now makes me want to listen to early Phoenix. Shit. I haven't done that in a minute.
Only early music. Only Phoenix intros playlist. Anyways, Arbitrary Scale. Maybe that one will go out to the wild one day, but it's such like a pointless playlist. Maybe I'll bring Tammy back on for like a episode on playlist for utility, because I just have a certain playlist that are just like, I want to hear this selection of songs on a loop, so I'm just gonna do that. But anyways, Arbitrary Scale. Arbitrary Scale is going to be the Mr. Rogers to WAP scale. Oh man, this makes no sense. This is our audio
This
face.
is bad and bougie.
Close to the mic. What was that?
This is bad and bougie.
Okay, that's pretty high up there. That's like very close to WAP.
It's like it's in the WAP area. It's not necessarily like
it's in the zip code, not the same like block,
exactly.
not the same like cul-de-sac though.
It's not the ground zero of it. It's like, you know, it's like within a nuclear blast radius, right? It's not like the center of the nuclear blast, but maybe it's like 3 miles away where you're still getting radiation that will kill you pretty good, but like you might be able to breathe for like 3 hours.
I while you were doing that whole like thing about nuclear fallout, I was just imagining the thing about those two members of Migos, or like I think when all the Migos were in James Corden's like carpool karaoke thing, or whichever comedian was doing that lame shit.
Yeah.
That meme where like they have the racks and there's like just doing the dancing when it's kind of like tired out. That with like background of nuclear fallout, just like explosion.
It's like just dropping.
So that's gonna be the new Audioface intro now.